All right, so let's talk about what the Field Pro is before we get into the laser system. So specifically designed for infield maintenance, first and foremost. So I'll just kind of walk through what all the pieces do front to back. If you guys have questions, just stop me. This is info for you more than anything. Up front has a walking front axle. So why do we do that? It's so when we're driving over uneven terrain, lets that front axle pivot instead of deflecting the whole machine, helps keep this center tool flat longer, okay? The magic of the machine really is this kind of this black centerpiece. We call this the MultiTool because it does multiple things. But the biggest thing is you have comes standard with 2 sets of scarify tines. So there's solid tines and there's spring tines here. Those can be swapped out without tools. So I can show you how to do that if you want. But the tines that are pointing back towards the operator are the ones in the kind of the active position. If you got to the field and you said, oh man, it's wet out here, I want to use the spring tines just to kind of scratch the surface, open it up a little bit. There's cotter pins here. Those pins pop out. Tool rotates. Put the pin back in. You've changed the tool. In the field, no wrench is needed. So let's flip it back. So those tines can be, one of the levers up there, I'll show you in a minute. Those tines can be rotated. So from the operator station, you can have them totally out of the way. You can just tickle the ground, or you can kind of go too far if you're not careful. So you can make those as aggressive as you want. Right behind that, this is a grader box. So really the magic of the machine is as a grader. And there's 3 ways that you can control that grade depending on what you're doing for the day, depending on how precise you need to be. So first and foremost, you can just freestyle grade. So that's you just on the lever, by eye, by feel, saying, I know I have extra material here. I want to grab that and I want to put it over there. So that's just kind of the quick and dirty way. Second way you can grade, you know, hey, I don't want to set up my laser, but I do want to have, you know, I do want to kind of clean up what's out there. This plate here is a manual depth stop. So it operates just like a 0-turn height of cut gauge. So you guys were out here, I just want to knock off the high spots and I want that material to drop into a low spot. The yellow dots here correspond to an above grade measurement. So imagine 0 is this blade edge touching like on perfectly flat pavement, okay? So if I wanted to knock anything down that's a 1/2 inch high, I want that blade to just stop a 1/2 inch high, grab whatever's high and move it somewhere else. I put that pin in the 1/2 inch spot. As the tool drops down, that's a mechanical stop, and that blade edge is going to stop at that 1/2 inch. You can go anywhere from 1/8 to 2 inches, and other than that 1/8 inch, and roughly 1/4 inch increments. You can also, there's orange dots here, that's a below grade measurement. So say you had conditioner on the field and you needed to strip all that off, you can say I want to take the top 1/8 of an inch off the field, peel that top layer off so I can till or whatever I'm going to do. Okay, so that's a mechanical depth stop. And then obviously can set up for a full laser grade capability if we want to do that. We'll talk more about that in a minute. Real quick, this machine is not set up with any accessories, but this grader has some accessories available for it should the need arise. There's a plate that'll bolt on right here on the back, and it adds kind of a receiver hitch looking here and on the bottom. The receiver on the side can do a couple things. You can add a disc edger. So if you want to edge your field, it's not driven at all. It's just literally just a metal disc. kind of sets back like this. Or you can put a blade extension on. So if you guys, you know, if you're doing all your fields and you're going to really set up and grade, it'll take it from a 6-foot grader to an 8-foot grader if you put that 12-inch extension on either side. There's also a set of blades that you can clip on the bottom. We call it a planer blade. What those are for is some guys will, when their fields aren't in use, like they kind of go fallow for the off season, they get full of weeds. So that blade is designed to kind of cut under the surface, cut the roots of weeds so you can remove that material if need be. Just a little bit about controls. The operator platform is on kind of isolators, so some guys will see it and they say, oh, I don't want to stand on that thing. But between having some isolation in that platform and then the pad that you can lean against, it's actually a pretty comfortable machine to spend some time on. Controls are pretty straightforward. Drives like a zero-turn mower. It's just a handheld version. Guys it'll take, if you've never driven a stand-on unit like this, it'll take a couple hours, I'd say, for you to get comfortable with it. People who have spent a lot of time on the machine, they get to a point where they drive it one-handed and then they can just use the levers with their other. Most people, when you start out, it's two-handed operation. Yep.
I'm a big guy.
Uh-huh.
Is there a weight rating on that platform?
Not that I'm aware of. I'm a pretty big guy too.
I just don't want to break it because I am a big guy.
No. Yeah, so interesting thing about this machine, it's a new machine. The only real, I would say, new engineering is this multi-tool. Almost the rest of the machine has been built from our parts bin. The prototype was literally a parts bin build. Front casters, the wheel motors, and these wheels come from a big zero-turn mower. Handheld controls are from a stand-on platform that we've had for years. The operator station comes from our Dingo compact loader series. So these have been in the market for a long time. So control-wise, 3 levers here. First lever raises and lowers that center multi-tool, essentially raises and lowers your grader, okay? Middle lever is going to rotate that scarifier, so how aggressive do you want that scarifier to be? Rear lever raises and lowers the rear drag. Rear drag is set up with our QAS system, this quick release triangle here. So if you guys are familiar with our Sand Pro, any Sand Pro attachment that uses that fits this machine. So if you have a favorite drag that you already have, it'll fit on this. Okay? So that's real quick across the machine. Questions about any of that?
Kind of breakout portion or ratings do you have? What will it do if you overload it?
It does not kick into a neutral position. I don't know if there's a, I guess I don't know that I've seen a spec in terms of like ground engagement. If you're really working it hard, like it'll let you know, you'll start to hear it whine a little bit. But I mean, we could get out and start moving some material just in manual mode. I've been out at plenty of times where like the whole profile of that box is full of material and material's rolling out the front and it's moving it around no problem. So capacity wise, if you imagine the kind of the bite of material that blade could in theory hold, that's a lot of material that it can move around.
I need to worry about how quickly the guys are running it and whether they're hitting really hard spots and jarring on the cutting bit and the blades. A lot of guys aren't as delicate with the equipment as I would like them to be.
It
Hitting rocks or moving too fast on harder material.
Yeah, I mean, I would just like anything, don't go full bore. I mean, when you're grading, it's kind of this, you know, slow, moderate pace is best. Let the machine keep up with the work. Um, as far as when you hit something hard, obviously you want to avoid rocks. The blade edge is, it's a wear edge, it is replaceable. So worst case, something happens, that is a replaceable piece. I've gotten in situations where you hit something real hard, and really what the machine tends to do is if it can't get through, it just wants to chatter across that. And so that's kind of the way it'll tell you that, hey, I can't quite get through this. That's when I would just engage those scarifiers some more, maybe work that up, and then continue grading. Good question. From a maintenance standpoint, the hood here lifts off. This pad here, there's just two knobs, so it opens up from the back. So from an accessibility standpoint, really pretty easy to get to all the normal maintenance items, filters, oil, things like that. And if you get stuck, you need parts, you need the manual. There's a QR code right there. Click that QR code, it takes you to all those manuals digitally. Okay?
No tilt or angle capabilities to this on
Nope.
that front?
Nope.
Anything in the future for that, or?
No. Not that I've certainly heard. I think you're the first person that's asked me that.
Coming off of a regular blade, so
Yeah.
it's 6 feet. Right.
Any other questions about this? All right, so let's switch over to the laser itself. Let's just kind of talk through all the pieces. You obviously have been around this stuff before, but for some of us who haven't, let's just talk about what all the pieces are and what their job is, and then we'll try and set it up. So this is the control box for the grade control, basically. It comes programmed for this machine. All the hydraulic profiles, everything are designed to work with this machine. So it's essentially plug and play. You don't have to set those parameters in the box. Once we get it all set, this will make a little more sense, but basically these are lights here that'll tell you whether you're high or low or on grade. These arrows will light up red if you're high or low. Green means you're on grade as you're going. This button here just clicks you into an auto or a manual mode. So auto is when you're letting the laser control the machine. Say you get overloaded, you know, you just, hey, I got too much material in my bucket, I just want to set that off to the side and then go back. You can click it into manual mode, do what you need to do, and then click it back into auto and it'll go right back. Okay. This lever here is just a way to raise and lower the grader while the machine control is happening. Again, if you just need to dump, you know, you picked up a chunk of grass, you just need to dump it out of your box. This is just another hand control there. And then what this knob does, we'll probably see it out here. So say we set our grades and we know that we want to be this percentage, but we start grading and maybe we set up in a low spot or a high spot and we're moving too much or too little material, but we know that this is the plane that we want to grade on. This is an offset knob. So that just lets you essentially say, okay, I don't want to change the angle of my laser. I don't want to reset all this. I just want to grade a little bit higher or a little bit lower, right? So maybe I'm moving too much material. I'm going to cheat that up and blend it out. So that allows you to do that. It's pretty fine. I don't recall, but it's like millimeters. So
What units are we using?
I think you can set whatever you want. I think I think standard it shows up in inches, not as
Yeah,
yeah.
well, I was just, I didn't know if it was preset already. Or
Yeah, I think it comes set in inches, but I think you can change it. I think it's stated at plus or minus a quarter, which is pretty standard for stuff like this. So that's the control box. There's 3 connectors here. The nice thing about these connections is when you take this off, this is just on like a ball mount here. You just undo this thumb screw and that pops out so you can put it in the box. You can position this however you want, you know, whoever's operating it, whatever angle, whatever. There's 3 cables down here. The nice thing about these cables, they're tight. So like when you're tightening them down, you're like, oh, that's in. Like it's as far as you can tighten those down. There's only one way that these can connect. So there's 4 plugs here. There's 2 large, 2 small. One of the large is a male, one is a female. Same with the smalls. So you can't plug the cables in the wrong way. Okay. The cables, one of them connects to the laser receiver, one of them connects power to the machine, and one of them connects to the hydraulic manifold in the machine to actually move the cylinder. Okay. Questions about any of that? We'll get more into that in a minute. So from the control, this is the laser receiver and mast. So that's if the laser is the pitcher, this is the catcher. There's some lights on the receiver as well that will tell you on grade, off grade, kind of helps us pair it with the laser itself. This, you can, we'll probably spin that around. So this just is on a manual screw, so when you need to pair it to the laser, that just lets you do that easily. Okay. Yep. Yep. Be careful with that when you're handling it. That's kind of a sensitive piece, so it comes with a case. Keep it in the case. That's not one that you want to just be throwing around. Same with the laser. All right, so over here, we said that's the catcher. This is the pitcher. This is the actual laser. So a couple of things about this. This is a dual plane laser. So what does that mean? That means you can set an X and a Y axis. So you can make any flat plane that you can tip in an X and a Y. Okay. Few just notes about this. This is a sensitive device as well. It is self-leveling if you have your tripod reasonably level. So on top of the tripod, there is a bubble level. If you get that close, the laser will then self-level, okay? If you want to know when we'll start kind of calculating a grade here, but if you're not sure which way is positive, which way is negative, there's cheater marks on the laser. So if you look on this side here, there's a Y negative and a Y positive. So if we're looking this way, that's the Y coordinate positive. This is the Y coordinate negative. Okay. Same thing on the front. No, on the back. There's an X here. So the same thing. This will tell you that this is X negative and this is X positive. Okay. The controls are pretty self-explanatory. When you get into the laser itself, you can basically just type in a coordinate. I will show you guys, there's a free app you can download from Topcon that talks to this. and it's a way easier way to tap in coordinates. So we'll do that way, because usually this is up a little bit higher. It's hard to reach, it's hard to mess with. This is the last piece of the puzzle. So this is our grade rod. So what this is when we're calculating how we want to grade this field, this is another little receiver. And what this will do is when we turn the laser on, when the laser hits this, it'll beep. And we adjust this, you know, it'll go kind of beep, 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 beep. Okay. We lock that down and we say, okay, that is 7'6". And then we'll check another spot and it'll say this is 8'2". And that gets us our difference in height so we can calculate a slope. So this is essentially a measuring tool for us. Okay. So I think those are the pieces and parts of the laser system. Questions about that? All right. So now what we want to try and do is we want to figure out some slopes. Okay. And I think this is a good spot to be set up. Sometimes this is a little bit trial and error when you don't really know what's here, what you're trying to measure, but we'll figure it out together. All right. So the first thing I want to do is I want to turn this on. So that's the power button there. When it's on, you'll see the numbers, they kind of like cycle across. That just means that the laser is going through its self-leveling operation. And as soon as those numbers stop moving, the laser will start spinning. Okay, they stop moving. So now the laser's spinning. So if we turn this on, so just so you hear what this sounds like. So that's just telling you what my grade is. That's telling you that this is intercepting that. Okay? Yep. So if we say, whatever, we'll say we're going to measure from right here. Okay? So that got me a solid tone there. So we're going to, I've done this before. So what elevation is that if we're looking at the top right here? Come on, that's what I'm saying. Get closer. I can't do everything for you guys. So these scales are, they're kind of opposite to look at. So if this is 7 feet here, you're in the 6 foot range, it's hidden there. So here's 5, 6. So I would say that, and these are 1/4 inch increments on here. So
6'1" and yeah,
yep.
6'1" and 3/4.
You're better off running inches or in feet in.
So
73.5 or
you just need to be able to figure out a differential is all. So this is 6'1 1/4.
Oh, and 1/4.
Okay. So does anybody have anything to write on?
I do. Wherever I put it.
So 6'1 1/4.
Black book.
So that's going to be the first shot that we take. Ideally, we have a measuring tape, which I didn't think to try and grab. You guys don't have a like 100-foot tape, do you? If not, we can fudge it. So what we're gonna do is, how do you calculate a slope? Back to like 8th grade geometry. Rise over run. So when we talk about that, we don't need to listen to that. So a triangle, right? So the run is a distance across the ground, and then the rise is a difference in elevation. So we have this point here where we measured 6 foot 1 1/4. We're gonna, so say that's right here. We're gonna go a known distance that we think is representative of this field. I usually use a round number. You can use 50 feet, you can use 100 feet, whatever you feel comfortable with. That's going to be this point, okay? We're going to measure an elevation at that point. So we know that our run is going to be 100 feet. And we know that the elevation is going to change by so many inches. That is going to then let us calculate a slope. And I'll show you how to do that. And that'll be the number that we plug into the actual laser. Okay? So that'll all seem all well and good. And we'll start moving the machine and we might go, oh my God, this is way off. Okay. So, yes.
Should you try to find the absolute lowest point for that first measurement, or doesn't that really matter? It really, yeah, actually, I think through it, it probably doesn't.
It probably doesn't, as long as the slope is consistent.
Okay.
Yeah, it's kind of situational. Do you want to build up or do you want to take off?
Yeah.
Some guys will say, sometimes you can set up like on a foul line. That's what I like to do a lot of times.
Okay,
and you can actually just measure between the bases, because bases should be a known distance, right? So if it's a softball field, you know that that's 60 feet. Those are 2 points that you can measure. The only issue with measuring at bases, those tend to be in holes because they're wear areas. So take that for what it's worth. So while we're waiting for him to grab a tape, I'm going to show you this app. Are you looking it up? Right there. Okay. So if you come over, I think it's a Bluetooth thing. Make sure that's on. It's looking. I don't know. It's a good question. So maybe I shouldn't be the one that does this.
Yeah, I think
You got it? Okay. Ty's got it.
I'm into one of them.
I think it's the only one. Yep. Okay. So come on over here, guys.
So I didn't go. You had to go through the app to find it. But once you're in the app, it selected, and this was the only one that it found.
So just as a quick demonstration, say we're going to adjust the y-axis here. So all we do is we click the Y. I think. So say I want this to be 1%, plus 1%. So I hit set, and then see up there, the number changed. So now that's a plus 1%. And when the numbers are moving across like that, that means the laser is adjusting itself. And then once they stop, it starts spinning again. So now the laser is set at 1% this way. But to find our slope, we don't want that. So we're going to go back and we're going to hit 0, set. And now it's going to go back to 0. Here you go. So that's a pretty handy thing. A lot of times when you actually get grading and kind of setting up with the machine, the laser is a lot higher up and you can't reach the buttons to make any adjustments. Some of them come with a handheld remote. I don't think this one did. So the app is a really handy way to do that. "100 foot makes the math easy."
What I am all about.
Okay, so we're 100 feet from our first point. Okay. So which way am I going to need to move this?
Down.
Down.
Well, eyeballing, it looks like you're going to have to move down because it looks like we're going up.
Yes. Get used to hearing that noise, guys. Okay, so what height is that?
5'4" and 5'5".
So 5'5".
6'1".
We were at 6'1" and now we're at 5'5". So what's the difference there?
Oh, I was stupid in the day. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Not quite 8.
8 1/4.
3 and 3. 7 and 3/4. Oh yeah, down. So we'd be.
So the way I do it, 7, 8 1/4.
8 1/4. 8.25 divided by 100.
No.
Ooh.
This is where everyone messes up the math.
Okay.
No.
Okay.
So we are 100 feet and our differential is 8 1/4 inches.
Yep.
So you cannot divide inches in feet.
Oh.
You have to do inches and inches.
Take that in.
So 100 feet is how many inches? 1,200. So our run is 1,200 inches. Our rise is 8.25 inches.
5 divided by 1,200 would be, well, 0.0068, so it would be
0.0068. Okay? That makes sense.
okay.
0.68%.
Yep.
Because you move the
0.6875. How far do you carry it out?
the laser will go like 4 decimals.
Okay.
I typically don't go more than 1.
0.69.
So 0.69%. Okay.
Yes.
So that's our x-axis that we will program in. Or I think the y-axis, I'm sorry. I think this is the y. So that's our first shot. Does that make sense? Yeah. Okay. Now we need to do the same thing this way. So we can do it a couple of different ways. We can just go right from this point because we know this elevation already, and we'll just measure what we assume is perpendicular.
Exactly 90 from there.
In theory, yes.
That's what the laser is.
So, it's a great point. So you can like do the whole Pythagorean theorem and you can figure out exactly 90. I think for what we want to do, we can probably say that looks like 90. Okay? So if we use this same elevation here,
Go that way.
we know what this spot is, right? So let's grab that screwdriver and let's go 100 feet that way, and we'll do the same thing. So just for everybody's knowledge, the typical infield like this is going to be graded anywhere from 1/4 to probably not more than 1% if it's built well. More than a 1% slope on an infield, probably you start seeing some runoff, like some erosion runoff.
Watch feet. Tell me when I'm exactly. Oh, I was going the other way. Don't. That was my mistake.
Record on that.
I would call that 6'4".
That's 6'4".
6'4". And we were at what over there?
1/4. Oh no, over here.
Yeah, over here.
On that one we were.
Yeah.
Yeah, 5'5".
This seems like a steeper slope to me, so that we should see a little bit bigger percentage number. So the difference between 5'5" and 6'4", 11 inches.
11 divided by 91.
Okay. So 0.91%. So that those numbers all pass the sniff test to me in terms of what a ball field should be graded at. Okay. If you get numbers that are like 2%, something like that, you might want to say that doesn't make sense. Or we might have a lot of grade work to do. Okay. So we figured out our slope, we think. So now what we're going to do is we're going to put those shots in the laser, and then we're going to pair the machine to the laser, and we're going to see what it does. This is like perfect conditions for this, by the way.
Yeah.
It really is.
Any questions before we do that? Is this tracking what you would have thought to do?
Exactly what I do on a job site.
So why is this way?
That was a positive 69 or 0.69.
0.69.
Yep. Okay. The other one was 91.
Yep. Okay, hit set.
Use my fat finger.
Okay, so that is setting up. So we can. The other thing.
There it goes.
The other thing we're gonna do.
Does this app say anything on here where that it's good, or
I mean you just
have to look on the.
Yep. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna just raise this up a bit now, because there's no way the laser is gonna be able to get low enough on that part of the field.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
So the laser is at an angle, but still, to pair things, you want the receiver above your head so you're not interfering with it when you're driving. So what we're gonna do is we're just gonna pull the machine over here, turn everything on, and then the last thing we have to do is we have to get the receiver, just like we did with the grade rod, we have to get the receiver to intercept the actual laser beam, and then we can be off and running. Okay? So unfortunately, some of this is going to be me yelling over the machine while it's running. Okay?
The controller
Into this? No. Should be
required to be during setup, possibly.
possibly. I think they should all be set.
Okay. Okay.
We'll find out.
All right. Yep.
Yes. So turn the controller on. All right, I'm gonna back up over here a little bit, guys. So one thing you want to do is you have to set this in a position where you want the grader to be. So the grader has to go basically touching the ground. Again, this is where that offset allows you to adjust. If you maybe put that down a little too far, not quite enough, that lets you fine tune as you go. It is set in inches right now, by the way. I operate on the assumption of set this on what feels like a well-graded spot. So if it's a known low spot, don't set it up there. If it's a known high spot, don't set it up there. But this is basically where we measured, so that's where we're going to try and pair this. So sun's going to be a little tough here. Basically what we're trying to do is, can you see those lights on there? Probably got to be way higher than that. Up, up, up. Up, down. Yeah, right there. So come look on the box here, guys. So see, we're blinking green. Can everybody see this? So that means that this receiver is talking to the laser and it's saying, okay, you're on plane. And the fact that the blade is on the ground, on plane, means we're good. It's also telling me that maybe I'm 0.08 inches high. When there's a down arrow, it means it needs to go down, okay? So if I'm in manual mode right now, okay? So if I click auto, this light goes green, this says automatic. I'm now being controlled by that laser.
It's already paired.
It's already paired. So in theory, If I start driving right now, the laser is going to be controlling the grader. So now it's, let's see what happens. Are we trying to move too much material? Or are we not moving any material? Do we kind of feel like this is going to work? When you're grading, working in little circles is the name of the game. That allows you to go over a spot, different directions, different angles. It lets that laser talk enough. You can't just make one pass across and say, okay, I'm good. All right? So let's see if it works. Questions? It doesn't like something. It lost the laser. Something seems off. So I almost wonder if something's flipped because like I move 4 feet and it tells me that I'm 2.5 inches off.
Get our angle here correct on the X axis. Is that where we're having? Try going up just the Y here and see if it works for you. See, we may have had that.